Hey guys, welcome to a Alt-Shift-X patron-only preview video thing, where I'm going to talk about some stuff that I love about the Watchmen comic book, which is one of the videos that we're working on at the moment, alongside the House Dane video. There's going to be like some spoilers for the original Watchmen comic in this. I don't think anything that would like reduce your enjoyment though if you're planning on reading the comic. But anyway, so I'm going to talk about some like specific stuff that I just think is really cool that probably won't make it into the video, so I'll just tell you all about it here. So one of the things that's really cool about Watchmen is that it's got all of these little concepts and ideas and symbols that get repeated and reflected throughout the story and have like different meanings in different sort of contexts. And one of the cool ones is the Gordian knot. So there's this painting. So the character Ozymandias has this painting of Alexander the Great cutting the Gordian knot. And this refers to this legend of the Gordian knot, about how in Greece or Phrygia or wherever, some bloke came up with a cart, and he tied the cart to a tree with rope. There was this big complicated knot in the rope that held the cart to the tree. And for many, many, many years, no one could figure out how to untie this knot. It was the most complicated, difficult knot. It was a problem that no one could solve. Until one day, years later, Alexander the Great turned up. You might have heard of him. And Alexander the Great was like, ooh, I can figure out a solution to this problem. I know how to separate the cart from the tree. And he took out his sword and he slashed the rope. He just cut the knot in half. And the takeaway is, like, the meaning is that, you know, it's about lateral thinking. It's about thinking outside the box. It's about using a solution that no one had thought of, because you look at the problem from a different perspective. And I think it also suggests that, you know, sometimes a complicated, intricate problem, sometimes the solution is simple and brutal and violent, even, because, you know, it's kind of cheating, isn't it, to untie the knot by cutting it, but it solved the problem. It achieved the goal. So that's sort of the concept of the Gordian knot. And without giving too much away, that relates very closely to what Ozymandias does in the story. But it also connects in like a much more subtle way to a bunch of other events and characters. So one of the things is that this character, Dan, gets his door kicked down. The lock gets broken, it just gets kicked through. So he has to get a locksmith in to get him a new lock. And the locksmith company happens to be called the Gordian Knot Lock Company. And the slogan of this company that we can see on their van is, "They'll never undo this sucker." So what they're saying is that their locks are like the Gordian knot. The locks are so intricate and well constructed that, just like the Gordian knot, they can never be untied. They can never be picked. You can't lockpick this lock because of how good and strong it is. But of course, you know, that suggests the solution to how to break these locks is just to kick it down. And so this lock that gets installed by the Gordian Knot Lock Company, it gets kicked through by this character Rorschach. And just to make a point of it, that actually happens like several times. I think 3 times at least. Rorschach breaks down a door by just kicking and breaking the lock. So they're really hammering home this concept of cutting the Gordian knot, of taking a complicated problem and solving it with like simple, brutal force. And that connects again to another character in another situation, when Dr. Manhattan, the one superhuman being in the Watchmen story, he nopes out of Earth and he teleports to Mars because he's sick of humans, and he does all this stuff, and he has this whole sort of time flashback philosophical meditation, and at the end he mentions that he's standing near the Nodus Gordi Mountains, which is a real mountain range on Mars, which happens to be named after the Gordian knot. And the way that I think this relates to the character of Dr. Manhattan is that Dr. Manhattan is this superhuman, super powerful being who can exert huge like supernatural force. He can like blow up tanks and move mountains and he can do anything. He is power. But part of what his character is about is that like he is not really able to solve the big problem in this world, which is the Cold War, the threat of nuclear annihilation between America and Russia, who really want to nuke each other. And Manhattan is used as like the ultimate nuclear deterrent because he can, destroy Russia if America tells him to. But as we see, Dr. Manhattan is not really effective in solving the problem, the complicated, intricate political problem of the Cold War. And I think that relates to the idea of the Gordian knot, because I think it's like a refutation of the Gordian knot, because it's saying that unlike the Gordian knot, this complicated knot that can be easily cut with a sword, the complicated political problem of the Cold War can't be solved by the application of the brutal supernatural force that is Manhattan. So maybe that's like another side to this idea of the Gordian knot. And there's another reflection to the idea of the Gordian knot, I think, here in issue 2, when this character, the comedian, has his face slashed up by this Vietnamese woman because he got her pregnant and is refusing to support her or take responsibility and is horrible. So there's this text here that says Gordian. It says like Gordon's gin or something. And there's a lot of points in the story when text is obscured or text is like cropped out in a particular way to give it a new meaning. It happens a lot. And one of, I think the intended meaning here is that this says gored, as in Gored. The comedian's face is being gored by the woman. There is gore coming out of his face. And I think the illustrator has confirmed that was his intended meaning here. It's in Watchmen annotated, I think. But I think this could also connect to the Gordian knot again, because this woman is in this thorny, difficult, complicated social situation of having the comedian refuse to help her with the child that he put in her. And her solution to this problem is simple, violent force. It's slashing his face open, just like Alexander the Great slashes the Gordian knot open. So I think that's another little sort of echo of this concept of the Gordian knot. So I just think it's crazy that this one little idea gets repeated and reflected and has all these different meanings in all these different contexts, all within this one like relatively short story. I think that's really like impressive and crazy, like as a way to tell a story. So yeah, I love that. And there's a couple other things that I want to briefly talk about. So one of the other great things is the detail and richness of the illustrations and the way that they give context and background and depth to the world. So Watchmen takes place in this alternate 80s America that's like similar to the real world in a lot of ways, but it's also different in a lot of ways because of the existence of like superheroes. So like I thought this frame in particular was really impressive for how many world building details it includes in it. So like it's like a spot the difference. You can like pick out all these things. So there are these fallout shelter signs going up. There's this whole truck full of all these dozens of signs that are being put all around Manhattan that shows us like just how intense the fear is of a nuclear annihilation. You can also see that this kid, Bernie, is reading a comic book called Tales of the Black Freighter. It's a pirate comic because in this world, superhero comics became unpopular. They fell out of fashion because there were all these real superheroes running around. So fictional superheroes didn't, they sort of lost significance. You can also see that there's an ad here for the Veidt method, because Adrian Veidt is the real name of Ozymandias, and he has this corporate empire where he's selling like self-help and 5 weird tricks to get rid of your belly fat, and so on. I think that might also be one of his magazines there. And you can also see that the kid is wearing sneakers with a V on it, which refers to Veidt's corporation which sells shoes and clothing and fashion and stuff. So you can see Ozymandias's footprints around the world here. You can also see this magazine says "How sick is Dick," which is a reference to Richard Nixon, who was the president of America in this world. He's on his fifth term in this world because of the influence of Dr. Manhattan and the comedian. His presidency was extended for various reasons. Also, because of Manhattan, there are electric cars in this world instead of like gas guzzlers. So you can see that the cars here, they don't have exhaust pipes, and what they do have is these electrical plugs on the side of them, and you plug them into these spark hydrants, they're called. You can see there's a little plug there where the cars plug in to recharge. So it's a crazy amount of detail in this one shot that gives you a sense of the world. There's also this Gunga Diner packaging here, because the Gunga Diner is a Indian fast food chain that's popular in this world instead of McDonald's, because of like the different altered political, geopolitical, economic situation in this world. There's also the Promethean Cab Company, and because Prometheus was the guy who stole fire from the gods and gave it to humanity, which I think connects to like nuclear war and like the whole theme of like power in this story. There's the Knot Tops, which is like a sort of like a punk rebellious subcultural style thing, this sort of fad of knot tops as like a style of haircut. It's also connected to like these youth gangs who are like causing problems. So it's a whole thing. It is crazy how much detail is packed into this one frame. There's another similar frame here where you can see airships in the sky, because there are airships now, partly because of Dr. Manhattan and him helping develop technology. There's a clock which is very nearly near midnight. Almost every clock throughout this story, and there's lots of them, is shown near midnight or near the hour, because that alludes to the fear of nuclear annihilation through the symbol of the doomsday clock, which was this real symbolic clock that warned of nuclear annihilation. You can see this policeman has headphones. In the real 80s, headphones were really uncommon, but in this world, electronics is more advanced and there's headphones everywhere. There even seems to be headphones built into this guy's hat, which has the V on it. So that's Ozymandias' company again, selling this advanced electronics. Nostalgia is the name of one of Ozymandias' lines of perfume that he's selling. There's a candy company called Meltdowns, which again alludes to like nuclear meltdowns. The New Frontiersman is the name of a right-wing newspaper in the story that has a big role in the plot line. There's these special kinds of smoking pipes, these ball pipes, which are apparently like electrical. So like they are popular now in this world instead of like regular cigarettes, which apparently is something to do with Manhattan. Like he just invented like Vape 40 years before it was meant to happen. 4 more years is like a President Nixon slogan in this world. And there's the spark hydrant there. So, like, I could go on. It's just crazy how much detail is packed into these frames. And I think that's another aspect of, like, why this story is so cool. Like, you've not only got all this incredible symbolism and all these, like, themes that are explored from all these different angles with all these different characters through the genius writing of Alan Moore, you've also got these incredible illustrations by Dave Gibbons that have all this detail packed in a very like organic, natural way. Like you might not notice these details when you first see it, but there's just so much richness there. So yeah, so that's some of the stuff we're thinking through for this Watchmen video. We're studying the comic book very closely, as you can see. Probably a lot more closely than is really necessary for like one video. We could do many videos on the Watchmen comic, I think. We could do like a video for like each major character probably, but I mean, you know, there might not be an appetite for like that much Watchmen content. So we'll do like the one first Watchmen explained video, which is going to just be sort of a general overview of like the plot, the main characters, the main ideas, and we'll try to keep that like a sort of concise sort of overall introduction. And then if there's interest, we could definitely do more Watchmen stuff. Because there is just a crazy amount of detail in this story. So yeah, thanks for listening to this. Let me know if you enjoyed this, and we'll do more of these little patron-only previews. We'll be talking more about all of this in the $5 patron live stream. We do that monthly live stream. So we'll talk some more about Watchmen. We'll show off some stuff for the Dane video, and that's live, so you can ask questions and whatever. So we'll schedule that pretty soon. But otherwise, thank you so much for supporting. Thanks for your patience. It does take a really long time to make videos about new series that we haven't covered before, because like there is a lot of work in working through all of this stuff. At Alt-Shift-X, we are nothing if not thorough. So yeah, thank you so much for supporting, and we'll get this video out, and have a good one. Cheers.